Hello, and welcome to the Nurse to Nurse podcast with Starshema and Kevin, the podcast for the nursepreneurs. Get ready for some straight talk on everything nursing and more.
All right, what's poppin', y'all? Welcome to another episode here on the Nurse to Nurse podcast with your good nurse friend, Starshema. What's up? So it feels kind of interesting that I am recording a podcast today without my good friend, Kevin Stansberry, but we've been committed to doing a solo podcast at least each season to be able to come and teach you something around your magic and our level of expertise to help you be able to show up in the world and make a greater impact in the work that you do at the bedside. So as I was brainstorming, I was just thinking, and I want you to ask yourself this question, like, have you considered in the last couple of months of taking your nursing career to the next level, right? And I was like, I've been having conversations with my nurse friends, and they're all are talking about what's next, right? How do I make this next level of impact? The market is shifting. The way we've nursed before is changing. And what is it that I need to do to pivot, to be able to conquer, to make sure I am still making the optimal level of impact at the bedside? So as I've been listening to that, and I'm like, you know what, that's a really good question to really think about. And if you having that question and you're asking and, doing some introspection type work, then probably all of my other nurse friends within my community who listens to the podcast probably want to have that same conversation as well, right? Like, what is that next level? Because I know the monotony of life, the monotony of our impact, right? We want to get to a level where we want to make massive impact, right? We didn't become nurses to just make mediocre impact, right? I know we don't ever want to talk about the money aspect, but one of the great things of what drove us into the profession was, yes, we wanted to make more money. We wanted to be more stable. Some of us was changing the trajectory of our families. We were taking our families out of poverty and into stability, right? Giving them greater opportunities, creating greater pathways for our children. Like that is what we were doing. And some of us was maintaining a lifestyle that our parents gave us, right? It really just depends. But the big thing is that I know at the core, because you could have chose any other profession, you could have done anything differently. But I believe that every nurse is here to make a difference in some kind of way. So when the money is not the forefront of it, then I believe impact and the difference that you make in the world becomes the big picture, right? So thinking about that, I was just like, hey, let's come and have this conversation. This is what I'm talking offline about. And again, if I'm talking offline about it, then I'm sure my online friends and my listeners want to have something to say. So this is why I'm doing a solo podcast today, is to talk to you about taking your nursing career to the next level, right? And I'm going to challenge probably what most people will tell you. You're going to commonly hear some very cliche things, very common things of what they say to take your career to the next level, but I'm going to challenge you in a different way. And another thing that inspired this conversation is I shared in the Nurse to Nurse podcast community and just appreciating the bedside nurses, right? There's one thing to be a nurse who does a podcast, who's not working at the bedside, to have conversation with other nurses who are working at the bedside. But there is a stark difference when you are no longer the nurse, but you're the patient that's sitting on the gurney. And when people don't know you are a nurse and the way that they treat you is very, very eye-opening, right? It's an experience. So I recently had an experience where I landed myself in the ED, and it was a Sunday afternoon. I had just facilitated a vision board workshop. During the vision board workshop, we had wine, all the things that we did. I probably ate very horribly. By the time I arrived home that evening, my heart felt like it was pounding out of my chest and it wouldn't slow down, right? Like not sitting down, it wouldn't slow down. And then I got a little like, what's this? Like you start to get that little bit of anxiety, right? And I was like, all right, I'm not short of breath. I'm not dizzy. I don't have a headache, but this heart is like, I feel it here. I feel it in the back. I feel it going up my head. Like, this is just insane. So I did my little EKG on my watch. And if you guys don't have a little smartwatch, I really recommend that everybody do. And my heart rate, the rhythm that it appeared, although it wasn't just a single lead rhythm off your finger, it appeared to be like SVT. So I reached out to my good friend Kevin, my mentor, my friend, who was there. I'm like, hey, look at this, and I was due for my dose of atenolol that night. So I took my dose and my heart rate did come down, but it just didn't feel right after your heart's irritated after something like that. So I went over to the ED. And in that experience, just the way that I encountered the nurses. Now, I'm not saying that anybody else was any indifferent. I'm not trying to make just say nurses matter only. But I think in a time of today, this is appropriate because nurses are tired and nurses are burned out and they're feeling unfulfilled at the bedside. And to see what the news is telling me, hey, if y'all haven't checked it out, like, is so many percentage of nurses that's in the double digits, like 40-50% of nurses are going to exit bedside nursing by 2025. So when I think of that, I'm like, damn, nurses are losing their passion, right? Or nurses are burnt out and they're no longer fulfilled in their roles and what they're doing, right? When I see these kind of numbers. But then also when I get to the bedside and I'm a patient and I see that, I do got compassionate nurses. I do have nurses who took the time to be attentive to my needs, to ask me the key questions and wasn't probing or prying or judging, right? That they really, really were trying to understand me. And I was like, when you look at what media says, when you look at trends and you look at what's happening, and then you look at what you experience as a nurse, and maybe I came in with a different lens because this is the space of where I study, the space of what I do, because I want to know what's going on with my nurses. And then I want to know what are their desires for their next move as well, so I can coach them and help them to get them to where they're going, right? So when I seen this, I was just like, oh, I was like, we do got compassionate nurses, right? We do have nurses who are still leaning in the hard times, right? We still have nurses who are working the post-COVID shift. Like when I was a nurse in nursing bedside and what nursing bedside nursing looks like today is completely different. So I say kudos to you who are still working bedside. I tip my hat off to you. You are a compassionate, amazing being. And this isn't it for you. If you continue to desire to work bedside, there's a next level of impact for you. Don't look at what society is telling us, right? There is a next level of impact. And that's the conversation I want to have for that nurse, right? This is the conversation for the bedside nurse who is ready to drive a greater level of impact. Now, one thing that I do know is one, going through nursing school and also being a nurse educator who teaches future nurses, like these nurses that are coming out that's going to be working alongside you. I get to impact the bedside by serving them inside the classroom and making sure they're getting good content that they need. And I know Kevin's a big proponent of, like, we're always teaching task-based medicine or task-based nursing of how to do a thing. And I totally agree. One of my big changes that I would love to drive in the classroom is enhancing the way that we think as our nursing students, the way that they think, right? To enhance their thinking, to get them a much more expansive thinking so that as they grow in their profession, they get more experience, that the thinking begins to expand as well, right? Would you love to work with a new nurse who can think just beyond, like, oh, that WBC is 16. Well, what the heck does that mean, right? And being able to connect the dots. So I want to get them there, right? That's one of my big changes that I want to make in the classroom. But the other big change that I want to make in the classroom, and I also want to make it in the profession, because if we weren't taught it, right? If we weren't exposed to it, if the culture isn't teaching us these things, then what are we doing, right? Like, I see so much bullying, right? We see so much bullying in the classroom. You see so much bullying at bedside, right? Like, how do we unlearn those things? Like, we bully each other. I don't care if you got 20 years, you got two 20-year nurses. So who wants to be the strongest? Like, and why do we need to compete? And Kevin and I kind of hit on this a little bit before. And when I think about taking your nursing career to the next level, taking your nursing career to the next level really talks about, who are you becoming? Y'all didn't pick that up. Like, who are you becoming? We need to rise to the occasion and we need to become the nurse that we need to be. Because I am a firm believer that you, as a nurse, you deserve to be an icon, right? The icon of the nursing profession, a person that is the epitome of care, right? of compassion, right? Of authenticity, of honesty, of integrity. Like you deserve to be that. But when environments get chaotic, y'all know how these work environments get, they toxic, bruh after bruh, sis after sis, or sis after bruh, or sis sleeping with bruh. Now it's drama in the workplace. Y'all know how it go, right? And how do you get yourself out of those situations? And how do you become the nurse that you need to be to still deliver good bedside care, right, to your patient, to take your nursing career to the next level? Now, some of the common things that people are going to tell you, like, hey, you tell them, I want to go to the next level. The first thing I tell you, go get a higher degree, right? Go get a higher level of education. Now, I understand, I respect education, right? I am an educator. I respect education, but I also believe education has its boundaries. Now, you have to understand what your overall goal is in healthcare as well, right? You got to know where you're going. And if a higher degree is that thing or that vehicle, that's going to get you there. So many people go get degrees and don't know why they get them because somebody told you that you should, right? But I feel like if the degree is going to open the door of that next level nursing career for you, do it. But just automatically, a degree is not going to open the door because you don't know what you want and you don't know who you're becoming or who you have to become to make the degree work for you. And I don't know about you, but I'm just not into going spending another 10K, 30K, 60K to get a degree that I'm not going to get an ROI on. Like, we have to be smarter in our investments. But I think when we become the nurse that we need to become to rise to our next level, to take our careers to the next level, then we begin to make better decisions about our investment, right? So traditionally, the common thing that people are going to tell you is, hey, I go to my good friend, I'm like, hey, I want to level up in my nursing career. Go get another degree. I'm like, all right. But I understand that, again, like I said, a degree isn't going to be it. So what should you do? I think you should get clear about what is your next level of impact and what do you want to stand for in your nursing profession. Some nurses, they don't want to be known for anything. They're comfortable with making whatever they're making and whatever they're bringing home, and they're bringing a stability. That's cool. Perhaps this isn't the conversation for that nurse. This is the conversation for the nurse who says, hey, I like the money I make, but what's even more impactful to me is the change that I can make in these patients and the impact that I can make. And I really want to be the epitome of nursing. And I want to be the nurse icon, like to become iconic in my nursing industry. And when you think about iconic, becoming iconic is that legacy, that person who stands up and exudes everything about the profession. You're the role model, right? And for some reason, we talk about Florence nowadays, but would you want to be the future Florence Nightingale to the people of today, right? By the things that you contribute to the nursing profession. And see, Florence decided many, many years ago of what she wanted to bring to the profession, right? That's why we light the lamps at our pinning ceremony, right? She knew that she wanted to impact ventilation and sanitation and clean up wards and talk about odors in the workplace and talk about noise and do all those things, right? So, like, taking your career to the next level takes you to become and for you to think about, what do I want to do? Not that you want to be Florence, right? Because Florence is Florence and Florence has impacted us and why we do what we do today as nurses. But who are you? Like, Florence is an icon, right? We still study her today. When we're studying nursing in the next 20 years, will your name be the name that says the things that you drove impact with? Will the organizations that you work for be the names that you drove impact with? And I'm not trying to toot my own horn here. I really feel like it was such a great opportunity for me. But I also look at the organization where I spent all of my nursing career, my bedside nursing career, is that I feel like I left a little bit of a legacy there, y'all. Like, when I have students that come and tell me, like, hey, is this you on this paperwork 5, 6 years after I left the organization, that I'm still present, right? Not that I really was like intentional about that. But one thing that I can say, when these moves started happening in the organization, when they were asking me to speak on behalf of the organization, was sharing my testimony, being interviewed on YouTube, on commercials, on Pandora, right before that transition happened, I got really, really clear about who I was and what I wanted to stand for in the organization. Yeah, we get frustrated with organization politics, and yeah, we feel like they're not doing us right. or whatever you may feel in your situation. But I had to stop and say that didn't define me. And I had to define how I decided to show up, right? What did I want to be known for? When people walked away from me or walked out of working on a team with me during a day, during a shift, what did they say? And I wanted to make that kind of level of impact when I was caring for my patients, although they may have been confused, or their families. How did their families experience me? How did the patient experience me? And did I make them change the way that they saw healthcare, right? And did healthcare breed compassion, right? One of the last organization that says stars compassion, your hospital. And that was even before I was Starshema, right? I've always been Starshema, but I didn't embrace Starshema. So that was part of my becoming, to take my career to the next level. Like, if I had not made these decisions, I would still be Star and not Starshema, which is my God-given name. And I wouldn't have had the opportunities that I've had if I just set to make whatever my income was making. And because I had already changed what my family looked like from poverty to making money and just been settled with that, then I wouldn't have made the strides in the world that I've made today. Now, I got a long way to go, y'all, because Oprah didn't set the bar high. I got powerful women who set the bar high for me, but I've made great, great impact. I've done some things that some people that I know that are near to me that never been able to do, but that's because I got intentional about my career. So taking your nursing career to the next level is less about going to get another degree, but is really more about becoming who you need to become. And one part of becoming of who you need to become is that level of clarity, right? We have to get so clear about what we want to be known for in the market. Like, you have to make that known for yourself. And inside of my workbook, where I give you the secrets to building your foundation of your brand and how you show up in these organizations, I talk about clarity. So if you don't know what you want to be known for, how do you show up in the world? And let me add some context to that. Like, how do you get in your car to a place that you've never been and you're trying to put in the GPS, but you don't know where you're going? Ooh, right? Same thing when it comes to how you show up in the workplace and how you drive impact in nursing. If you haven't set a direction and where you're going, if you haven't set a tone, then you can't really set the atmosphere when you get there. So in that, it really creates you to make mediocre impact. That was me, y'all. Like, that was really, really me. So that clarity of, what do you want to be known for? Do you want to be the compassionate nurse? Do you want to be the nurse that impacts education? Do you want to make sure you change, these hospital politics, that we're not money driven about our decisions, but we are patient driven, right? Looking at the safety, do no harm to our patients. Is that the nurse that you want to be? You get to decide that. And that's one of the amazing things about taking your career to the next level, is that you get to decide. We need to stop allowing, pisses me off, right? Other people to decide for us, because go get the master's degree, go get the doctorate degree. And that shit essentially does nothing for you, because you still don't know where you're going. You're trying to follow somebody else's footsteps. Let's be the next Florence Nightingale in your own way, right? Taking your career to the next level. And then the other thing is, get specific in an area. It's okay to specialize, right? I know a jack of all trade is master of none, and it's better to be a master of none than to be a master of one, right? Is that quote? I respect that, but I believe that you need to hone in and get really good at something. Like right now, my focus is education. Like, how do I educate better? How do I penetrate the minds of adult learners differently? How do I be able to help people to critically think better, right? And to think through a patient? How do I change, get my geekiness into somebody else, right? So thinking about that, choose a specialty area of where you want to study. Like, I love my cardiac nurses, because listen, cardiac just ain't my jam. I mean, I understand it a little bit, but all the dynamics of it, I just don't get. But, specialize in that area if that's what you choose to. Look for roles, right, within organizations. So when you get clear about what impact you want to make, when you know that this is my area of specialty, this is where I want to double down, this is where I want to be great at, like Florence was like here, right? So think about as Florence as your compass or as your guide of what she's done. Success leave clues. Let's stop reinventing the wheel. Let's do the things that have already been done to get us to where we want to go, right? But let's do it in this fashion. You put yourself in roles and seek opportunities that align with the kind of impact that you want to make that's in your specialty. Like, seek those things out. Look at ways to enhance your communication skills and your decision-making skills, right? To position you in a place that you stand out amongst your competitors. And here's a great thing right now for you to take your nursing career to the next level is that what they're finding is that they're a lateral type space right now in nursing. I feel like when I entered nursing, there was people who was much more above me, with much greater experience, that they were positioned to do more than me. They had seniority, they had the experience, right? And then there were people that were below me, so I was kind of in the middle. But where I feel like the profession is and where nursing is right now, where they're all trying to put bedside nursing kind of like at the all level spectrum. Oh, we don't know how to critically think. We're doing all these things. I mean, look at nurses who are going to jail for, or being fired from organizations for not putting vital signs in, right? Nurses not knowing how to chart in charts. They're putting us all on the same level and we're not there. Like you are not at that same level of that nurse. You desire something deeper. So why I say that is you have a great competitive advantage right now. While they're putting everybody here, you're going to come and make some noise. You're going to come and create some change and position yourself above everyone else, right? Getting yourself in communities and networks of professionals that support that next level nurse that you want to be. And again, you don't have to leave the bedside to be able to do this, right? Despite all the politics that are in there. And then just don't ever give up. Like we are continuous learners. Florence told us that we're continuous learners. This is why we have continuing education. This is the reason why we do the things that we do every day. I mean, every day to be able to maintain our licensing every 2 years, right? So these are the key things. Like what I feel is for the nurse who's listening to this, male or female, is that you didn't become a nurse to be mediocre, right? You became to be a nurse to make massive impact. You became a nurse to drive change in your community. You are a nurse who's compassionate about serving people at some of their most vulnerable times when they feel underserved. Like this is the reason why you show up, right? And yes, one layer is that you want to provide stability to your family, but also you also know that some of the things that you deal with, the money isn't enough, right? So because of your passion is here, this is what you want to do. And these are the ways to take your careers to the next level. You can either follow what they tell you to go get another master's degree, a doctorate degree, and still don't know what to do with it. Or you can take these simple proven steps, right? And start making change today. Just asking yourself, like, what do I want to be known for in the market as you're listening to this podcast, as you're driving into work, or as you're listening to this podcast, as you're ending your day, thinking about how am I going to show up tomorrow or how I'm going to show up at my next shift is already going to start making change because you're much more focused. Y'all, I remember going to work with no direction, like meaning I'm just showing up, I'm coming to get my paycheck and I'm going to hell home, right? At the end of the day. And when I look back at those shifts, when I came in with those kind of mindsets with no direction, I really left the day unfulfilled. I felt like, did I do the best that I could for my patient? Did I, start the med as I should? What maybe have I done that I could have done better, right? At the end, that was kind of like my debriefing kind of work on my drive homes, or as I sat in the restroom for hours with the door closed, right? As I decompress. Those were the questions that I had. But when I made the shift and I started to think about what did I want to be known for and how did I want it to show up as a nurse, not how the organization thought I should show up, but how did I want to show up, right? I separated myself. I believed in the organization's mission and values, but I separated the brand of me. And because I knew that every time a patient experienced me, they didn't experience the organization, they experienced me. So I had to get intentional about how they experienced me. And I had to ask myself those questions. And those questions is what drove how I decided to show up. And let me tell you, at the end of that day, when I went with a goal and a direction in mind, I felt fulfilled. Even if I couldn't do all the things that I wanted to do in a day, but I felt much more fulfilled because I was much more directional, felt like I was much more productive. Kind of like setting your direction is putting the address in your GPS to get you to where you want to go. If Florence did it, and we're still celebrating her, she took her career to the next level. What is stopping you from doing it? So thank you for listening to this podcast. I'm so grateful to hear. Hopefully this added value to you. I would love to hear what change or what direction, if it penetrated your mind in any kind of way to make you think differently about taking your career to the next level And this isn't about a monetary investment right now in you, but this is all about a time investment in you that's going to take your career to the next level. It may not seem, the growth may not seem fully beneficial in a day or two, right? As far as monetary wise, but I guarantee you this will change the trajectory of your nursing career. This will change the trajectory of your impact. I wouldn't share anything with you that it did not change for me. So go out here, nurse, change your corner of the world, make impact one patient at a time, being directional, being focused, and becoming the nurse that you need to be. Have an amazing, amazing day. I'll chat with y'all soon. Take care.